Hello, everybody. Welcome to this video about the Throughline. I am teacher Rodrigo Sapien, and I'm going to talk to you about this topic regarding public speaking. Now, the Throughline, that's what it means. If you don't know what it means, it's an idea of the path that you're going to take to get to the point whenever you're giving a talk. Don't go around in circles. It's very important to do this, and how you're going to present this, how you're going to give a talk, and how you're going to give something meaningful to your audience, something they can remember. It's very easy to forget. So the moment you come in, they're going to listen, but the moment you leave, you're out of their lives. You need to make sure to stay in their minds for a future. To have something that they can share and something of value. That's very difficult. So we're going to talk about that in this video. So the first thing is you need to be clear what your point is. Say something meaningful. Let's say you're going to talk for 30 minutes or for 18 or for 10 or for however amount of time you're going to have to give a talk or to give a class or to lead a meeting or whatever the case might be. Your point needs to be clear. Sometimes speakers say amazing things. They give out a lot of sentences, but the audience leaves and they have nothing. They don't remember. I went to a TEDx talk a few years back, and I can tell you that I meaningfully remember one, and it was probably about 10, I want to say. And one of them was very beautiful, was honest, and it had a very clear point throughout the whole talk. So it was interesting. But think about that. I remember 10% of the speakers. The other ones, some of them were a little bit braggy. Some of them were a little bit, not to the point. Actually, a lot of them, I think, were missing this, that the point was not clear about what it was that they were trying to bring across. And this happens a lot, more than you think. And it happens a lot in classrooms. It happens a lot in meetings. It happens a lot in anywhere where somebody is in front of an audience speaking or in front of people speaking. If it's probably not an audience. It's an audience in a certain way. But anyways, you got to give them something to hold on to. Now, you need to build a connection with people. I cannot stress this enough. I've mentioned in other videos before that, you're talking to humans and you need to connect with humans in a human way. It sounds obvious, but we tend to forget that. What is the first thing that comes to mind whenever it is we're going to speak? The first thing that we think about is the words. What am I going to say? The last thing we think about is how we're going to connect. And it doesn't matter what you're going to talk about. You can talk about politics. You can talk about the economy. You could talk about art, whatever it is, whatever the topic might be. It doesn't matter. There's always a way to connect with people. Always. The better the connection, the better the result you're going to have with the audience. In the sense that people are going to respond. People are going to respond very well. Be human about it. Okay? Now, we're going to compare these two expressions or these two sentences. Now, the first one, I'm going to read it out loud for you. It says, I want to share with you some experiences I had during my recent trip to Cape Town, and then make a few observations about life on the road. So they're telling us, what this person experienced when they went to Cape Town, South Africa. Okay? In my point of view, this is just something that you would tell your family, I think. Right? But on the other hand, on my recent trip to Cape Town, I learned something new about strangers. When you can trust them and when you definitely can't. Let me share with you two very different experiences I had. In my point of view, the second one is clearer and it's much more important. It's much more engaging. Okay, so there's always a way of presenting your topic in a very smart way. Now, you hear this a lot with publicity whenever they have like a motto or the philosophy of the company, and you see it in publicity everywhere. And a lot of these times is because they're very clear about what they're trying to give you. and a lot of these people are trying to give you an experience. The best marketing is the type of marketing that gives you an experience. If that happens, it's going to be much more memorable, much clearer, and the point comes across, which is the most important thing, right? Great. Okay, now be precise. Again, get to the point. What's the exact, well, it says here precise. It's a better word. What's the precise idea you want to build inside your listeners? If you have that clear, you're halfway there. Okay, and what is their takeaway? So this is very difficult to answer. This means, what are they going to take with them when you finish your speech or when you finish your class? This is very difficult to respond. And even when you know what their takeaway is going to be, it's very difficult to achieve. And this takes practice. This takes time and it takes patience. But you need to be clear on what it is they're going to take with them when your talk finishes. Okay? Sometimes they don't take anything. Actually, most of the time they don't take anything. But you could be the exception of this and make sure that they take something. Of course, it has to be, ideally, it has to be something positive, something affirmative, something that builds on them as people, right? Or depending on the type of audience that you have. If you're a teacher, and you're teaching future, I don't know, just future veterinarians, that they become better veterinarians, or that something that you gave them is going to help them, in their job as health carers for animals, or whatever the case might be. There was just an example. Now, don't be too predictable, right? So I find these very interesting. In my point of view, both of these, check this out. The importance of hard work. The 4 main projects I've been working on. To me, both of these are really boring. They're giving me nothing in reality. They're just, things that anybody can come up with. And I've seen these 2 everywhere and many times over, or other forms of these type of phrases. Okay, so don't do this. Please just don't do this. So here are a few better options, and always present in your through line or in your idea or in your point, present something that's a little bit unexpected, that always comes through by creating, some suspense, and it creates a little bit of anticipation, and of course it creates interest. So here's a few of them. Check it out. More choice actually makes us less happy. Okay, I'm immediately interested in how, sometimes when you go to a store and you see a lot of options, for most men in this example, if you see a lot of things when you go shopping, it doesn't interest us. It just makes it more stressful, right? Especially, I'm talking specifically about, statistically speaking, most men don't like to go shopping or don't like to see many stores before they buy a shirt. They go to a store, buy a shirt, get out and go home, right? So this is a clear example of how more choices are actually going to make us a little bit anxious, not the way that we want to feel. At least that happens to me, and it happens to a lot of male friends I have. Vulnerability is something to be treasured, not hidden from. This is counterintuitive. This makes it interesting, right? We don't want to show ourselves vulnerable. But then again, I was mentioning in a talk, in another video, I was talking about how whenever a speaker makes a mistake and they embrace the mistake, I've seen this, a speaker that was vulnerable in front of the audience and embraced the mistake he made, and the audience responded really well to it. So vulnerability was actually something that worked in his favor because the talk became more interesting and more engaging after this mistake was made. So that's something counterintuitive again, but it's very interesting to keep in mind. Education's potential is transformed if you focus on the amazing and hilarious creativity of kids. Yeah, that is very true. Whenever I've done projects, especially with physics, with middle schoolers, I've given them free rein whenever they want to do a project. I just tell them it has to do with physics, has to do with any of the topics we've talked about over the past year. Do it, whatever it is. And it's very true. Most of them come up with really amazing things. Things they think outside the box, and their brain is beautiful. The way they think is beautiful. So this is a great point to talk about. With body language, you can fake it till you become it. This is kind of like rehearsing. Even if you don't feel well, you stand up straight, and you come again to do another talk, and you don't feel well, but you stand up straight, and the next time you stand up straight again until it becomes a point where it becomes you. So this is really interesting. A history of the universe in 18 minutes shows a pass from chaos to order. I'm interested to see how you could tell the story of the universe in 18 minutes, 14 billion years or something like that in 18 minutes. That's intense, right? Terrible City Flags reveal surprising design secrets. I've seen this talk. It's really interesting. Check it out. So, but again, this point or this line is really interesting. Okay, a ski trek to the South Pole threatened I think it's my life, sorry about that, and overturned my sense of purpose. I can see how that can be transforming. Let's bring on a quiet revolution. A world redesigned for introverts. Now, I am not an introvert, and this makes it interesting for me because I want to see how introverts think. What would a world for introverts be like? So I'm immediately engaged again. The combination of 3 simple technologies creates a mind-blowing sixth sense. Now, I have no idea what this is talking about, and that's what's engaging about it. Online videos can humanize the classroom and revolutionize education. I can vouch for this, but let's see what the speaker has for us. So check it out. Well, anyways, one idea. Present one idea that is presented as thoroughly as possible as you can in the limited time period. Okay, more choice actually makes us less happy. This is a quote from Barry Schwartz. Now, there was this thing that I remember about saying that speakers are ready to talk for 40 minutes, and that's very true. I can easily go on, with the experience I have, as little or as much as it might be, but I could talk for an hour easily. I have no issue. Let's say that they tell me to talk about, I don't know, something within my area. Talk about, not within my area, but something, colors. Let's say that I need to talk about colors. I could prepare a talk for 1 hour about colors rather easily. But if they want me to talk about colors for 10 minutes, now that's difficult because I have a limited time period. And for it to be concrete, for it to be precise, concise, assertive, it's really difficult, right? But it could probably create something more engaging, something clearer, something much more digestible. So think about it. It's not easy. Okay, a larger than you idea. Find a single big idea that is larger than you or your organization. At the same time, leverage your experience to show that it isn't just empty speculation. Like I'm talking to you right now. I'm talking to you about the Throughline, and I'm giving you a bunch of ideas when it comes to experience. A lot of the things that I'm telling you are actually based on experience. And if you don't have that much experience, go and find it. Create your own experience. I remember that when I was in university, there were a lot of things that I thought I knew. And when I recently graduated, I became a little bit arrogant because I thought that I knew a lot. But when I actually got to work, I found out that I knew nothing. And it's very humbling in a not so pleasurable way, in a non-pleasant way. That's what I meant to say. But then when I got the experience, all the knowledge that I had became a tool in my favor. But it wasn't at the beginning because it made me think that I knew a lot, but I didn't really know that much. So present your experience. If you don't have your experience, go and get it. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. All of those mistakes create anecdotes, stories, create knowledge, that you cannot learn in a classroom. You have to learn it out there in the field, so go ahead and do it. Anyways, so let's keep going. Now, 3 examples. Present only 3 that are connected. This is important to be very concise, okay? Think about where you're going when you're talking. Right now, in my mind, and I hope this comes through in this video, I do know where I'm going with this, and I do know where I want to take you with this. Hopefully, it's clear. In my case, it is. Now, have a direction. You don't need to be obvious, but you have to give an idea of where you're headed, where you're going. Okay. So, but most importantly, it has to be clear to you as well. What point do I want to get to? I saw this talk many years ago. It was for a company that does multi-level marketing. Other people refer to it as pyramid selling, pyramid schemes and such. But the talks that these people give are quite impressive, to be honest. And I remember that one talk. It was a guy from South America somewhere. He was giving a talk, and he gave this long anecdote that basically lasted his whole talk. But he did it in a way in which he gave you part of it at the beginning, then he gave you another part probably 4 or 5 minutes later, then another part a few minutes later, and so forth. And he closed with the moral of the story that at the same time was a major point in his talk. It was brilliant the way he put it, because he always kept you interested, because you wanted to know what was going to happen with the story, and somehow he managed to connect the story with his point. So it was quite amazing, and I started becoming fascinated with these talks. I wasn't interested in becoming a multi-level marketer. I was curious about it. And if you ever have a chance to go and check it out, check these talks out, some of the guys that are kind of like in the diamond level of selling when it comes to multi-level marketing, go and check out their talks. They're pretty good. They're pretty amazing. Whether you're interested on buying the product or not, their talks are still pretty interesting. Anyways, so moving forward, another thing is to draw a path. You have to be clear on how you're going to get there and what the road you're going to take is going to be. Okay, so you need to trace it very clearly. And how does this help? It helps you know. It helps you not get out of the road, go in a different direction, go in a different path. Because sometimes you can go in an endless, path that you were not supposed to go with, and sometimes it's really difficult to come back. Okay, the other thing is that it helps you be clear on when you're going to finish, and it also helps the audience be clear on that, not to go in other directions that you don't want to go and you don't want the audience. It's happened to me, to be honest. It's happened to me many times whenever I'm teaching a class, and I've made this mistake before, but as the years go by, I've been able to, work it out and work. What's the expression? I don't remember what the expression is, but basically, make it more assertive. That's the word I was looking for. But I've done this mistake before, and whenever I'm more assertive, and whenever I'm more to the point, and whenever I have the clear path, the students engage more. And the same thing has happened whenever I've been in front of an audience giving a speech, giving a talk. You do the same. Big recommendation. Okay, now the topic of your talk and the Throughline you're taking are not the same thing, right? You can combine them. You can use the topic to create a throughline, but they're not the same thing. Keep that in mind. Now, know your audience. Choose the topic and the throughline with previous information. There was this case, I think, if I remember correctly, about a guy that was going to talk about the Uber app and about the advantages of Uber. And as a user, you go like, wow, they're revolutionizing and making affordable, customizable transport, public transport, which that's what it is, customizable public transport. It's an amazing thought, right? But then again, there was a person who did this in front of an audience full of taxi drivers, and it just blew up in his face. So you need to know your audience before you actually, start talking about whatever it is you're going to talk about, right? And it's like telling a very dark joke in a funeral, a joke that talks about death or something like that. It's just not tasteful. You should never do that. Be careful. Know your audience all the time. Find information about it so you can do any adjustments, make any adjustments that you need, before you actually go on. And of course, do it with as much time as you can prior to giving the talk. Okay, I hope this information was good for you. Thank you very much, and remember to leave any comment or questions in the comments below. I'll try and answer as soon as possible. Thank you very much. Have a good one.